Open heart, open mind. Welcome to the Sattva channel, the official platform of the Sattva project. I'm Sharabom, the co-founder of the Sattva project.
Myself, Samiksha Mishra. It's echoing, Brother Sharab?
Yes.
Okay. Now it's okay, right?
It's live now, yeah.
Okay, sir. So I'm Samiksha Kamble, and I'm from Sattva Youth. It's also a program initiated by Sattva Project.
So welcome everybody. First of all, I would like to express our thankfulness to our streamer sponsor and media partner, Durian ASEAN and Durian FM, and not to forget the most important person behind the scene, our broadcast director, Brother Chong. Hi, Brother Chong. We'd like to say hello to everybody.
Hi everyone, and welcome to our meditation session this evening. Please do like and share our post so that more will benefit. And for those who are watching later on YouTube, please also do subscribe, like, and share. And now back to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Chong. So today we begin a very new series by the name of Interbeing. So today there will be a mindfulness meditation guided by Venerable Tenzin Dasel. Being the Lotus, a meditation practice to honor the kindness of Master Thich Nhat Hanh. So we sit quietly at home, spread love and kindness all around the globe. So there will be a short talk to begin with, and then we meditate together. Then we end up with some question and answers, and then dedication prayer.
So let me guide you. Let me introduce to you Venerable Tenzin Dasel. Venerable Tenzin Dasel is a teacher and leader who has been practicing Buddhism and meditation for over 2 decades. She is the founder of Main Mindfulness Project and serves as the Buddhist scriptural advisor at Bates College and the spiritual program coordinator at Tashi Gatsel Ling Buddhist Center. She holds many honor and distinctions for her work with women, children, and youth throughout the US, India, and the world. So, let us welcome Venerable Tenzin Dasel to this program. Thank you so much for joining us, Venerable.
Oh, it's really my pleasure. Thank you to Sattva for the kind invitation and this precious opportunity to share with you my deep appreciation and respect for the most venerable Master Thich Nhat Hanh and the impact he's had on my own life as well as on the practice of Buddhism in this time that we're living in around the world. So thank you all for this opportunity.
Thank you, Tenzin Dasel.
So I would like to just start by inviting us to take some mindful breaths. The first contact I had with Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh's practice of Buddhism was called a small book he wrote called The Miracle of Mindfulness. And he was very fond of the mindfulness bell. So I'm going to invite us all, and I'm going to enjoy with you taking just these few opening breaths of mindfulness to come to this present moment that we're sharing just right now. The only place we live is just in the moment. So let's listen to the bell and bring our body, speech, and mind quietly back to this moment, taking 3 deep breaths to arrive. And so just taking these short moments to come home, to come back to awareness is really the mastery of Thich Nhat Hanh, Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh's whole practice and sharing of the Dharma. The miracle of mindfulness is still as relevant today as a book. It was started as a letter he wrote to a friend, and then had so much wisdom and profound guidance to his friends who were still living in Vietnam during the war, that it was suggested that it would be great to publish as a book. And so before we go into a longer meditation, I want to just start by sharing a little bit of the background of the Venerable Master Thich Nhat Hanh's journey, as well as a few other teachers who I know would also really want to be included in his honoring, becoming the Lotus as we are in our practice. So Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh was born in 1926, but he grew up at a time in his monk practice when the Vietnam War really came into full power and full effect, and was really a time when bombs and everything were going off all around him. And the question as a practitioner of Buddhism is, should we just stay in the temple and meditate and do our practice quietly every day and pray for the world peace? Or should we come out of the temple and really become the Lotus and be the peace? And thankfully, Thai answered this question in his own heart of saying, no, we need to actually engage with our Buddhism now. And so he's actually the founder of this wonderful movement worldwide called Engaged Buddhism. And being the Lotus means, yes, without the mud, as a recent book he published, No Mud, No Lotus. A lotus flower in its pod, in its seed, is planted deep inside the muddy grounds underneath water. And it has a long journey to come up through that muddy ground and water to blossom. And so Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh's real beginnings in his monk practice was in the midst of war. My other root Lama, Vijaya Lama, we say in Tibetan Buddhism, he's the guiding Lama for all lineages of Tibetan Buddhism, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He also likewise was bringing into his monkhood at a young age in the midst of an invasion of a big neighboring power of China coming into Tibet, and trying to figure out how to bring peace and how to find a diplomatic way to solve a compromise that we could coexist, interbeing, as Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, he's also called Thai or Thai by his students and disciples. I consider myself one, which Thai means teacher. And also another one of my dear heart teachers and spiritual friends, Kali Mitriana, the most venerable Jetsuma Tenzin Palmo. She was born in 1943 in the midst of war in the World War II in London. Now, why I'm sharing this with you is we stand today in this very moment, also right now in the world, in a very serious conflict between neighbors in the West and neighbors in the East, feeling a very big tension in a place called Ukraine, on a line where Asia and Europe meet each other. We see that there's a stressful tension in this very moment in the world today. So the practice of becoming the Lotus, being the Lotus, means we have to become the Lotus. We have to see that the world is full of difficult situations, difficult tensions. And our masters, our Buddhist masters from many different traditions, show this so well, but especially in the Mahayana tradition, which is shared by Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh's practice of Zen Buddhism from Vietnam, and is shared through the practice of Vajrayana Himalayan Buddhism. We might say Tibetan Buddhism, but we could say better Vajrayana Buddhism, which is also under the umbrella of Mahayana Buddhism. And this practice of Buddhism calls us out to become what's called a bodhisattva. And bodhi means awakened, and sattva means enlightened being, a hero or heroine who's on the Buddhist path to become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. And so our own channel here, Sattva, our program Sattva, means hero or heroine of Buddhist teachings. Bodhi means awakened. So a bodhisattva in Mahayana Buddhism is someone who's awakening. It's a process. Awakened, we have a beautiful example in the Shakyamuni Buddha as the Buddha of our current time, of a human being who followed his path all the way up to discovering what's called the Dharma. Dharma just means teachings, but in Buddha Dharma, it means the teachings that really lead us to this highest enlightenment, our full Buddhahood. So not just any kind of Dharma, but these precious sacred Dharma that lead us to actually become the Lotus, become the awakened presence for the benefit of all mother sentient beings. And so these three masters, Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and Jetsama Tenzin Palmola, are all Mahayana Buddhists, all practicing Buddhism according to their traditions and lineages, Zen Buddhism, as well as Vajrayana Buddhism, have this bodhisattva ideal, which is really about becoming the Lotus, being the Lotus. But in order to be it, you have to become it. And this is the beauty of Thich Nhat Hanh, Venerable Master's message, is mindfulness. The miracle of mindfulness is taught within the Buddha Dharma, and coming back to breath is taught within the Buddha Dharma. Dharma is the Buddha's teachings, and it really means that which holds. So it's a practice that holds us out of suffering and holds us into our true nature of a Buddha, our awakened and aware mind that knows the true nature of the reality. This, what Thai called interbeing, interdependence, the empty nature of phenomena, in Sanskrit, shunyata. And so when we see how deeply interconnected things are, that things exist differently than the way they appear to our minds, they come into being through causes and conditions, then we start to understand what it takes to actually be the Lotus. Means we have to become the Lotus. And so the miracle of mindfulness calls us back to this moment. Thai like to use the bell to stop, to have us remember this is where life is being lived, just this present moment. And the voice of the bell calls us back. And so how much nicer to hear the voice of the bell than to hear the voice of the bomb, because the bomb has a voice as well. And so what Thai's trying to point to is when we listen to the voice of the bell, we have the appreciation that that is the only voice we're hearing. We're not hearing voices of the bomb. When we listen to the voice of the bell, we're remembering the miracle of mindfulness, even amidst the bombs going off, either internally in our own negative thoughts and fears, our anxieties, which so many have these days around the world, or externally, bombs literally going off in people's lives, in the external environment. These are also happening in this current world. And so working with becoming the Lotus means we start in the mud. We start in what's called samsara, this realm of suffering, this realm of misunderstood way things are, creates a lot of suffering. And this is called samsara. And this realm is born out of deep ignorance, out of selfish attachment, and out of hatred, aversion. It's born really out of fear and misunderstanding. And so through mindfulness and through the Buddha Dharma, we see through that into the true nature of the what's called, what we can say in a simple way, empty, peaceful, and unborn truth of the nature of phenomena. Empty means interbeing, interdependent. Peaceful means it is the nature of the highest experience of awareness, this peaceful, empty nature that's always available to us and only available right here in the present moment where life is being lived. And then unborn means it's not created. There's no one creating this. There's no one externally out there bringing us bliss. There's no one externally out there making us miserable, sending us into the hell realms. It's our own experience of our mind. It's our own experience of our speech. It's our own experience of our body that's creating our own experience of our life. And Thai was brilliant at bringing this message of simplicity, although it's very, very profound, actually. So it's not that simple. It might sound simple, but it's not easy to walk the path, but it's beautiful and joyful to walk it. It's a practice. And so he brought the message of the miracle of mindfulness. He brought the message of coming back to the present moment. He brought this beauty of the practice of breath meditation, which the Buddha taught as a foundation of all practices in the Pali tradition and in the Sanskrit tradition. Whether you're a Theravadan practitioner or a Mahayana practitioner, we all, or maybe not even a Buddhist, which is fine. We all have breath. Everything that lives has breath. The fishes have to breathe, the insects have to breathe, the animals have to breathe, the human beings have to breathe. Everything that's alive has breath. So how naturally the Buddha would start with breath, and how wonderfully Thai would say, what do we have in the middle of a war, in the middle of bombs going off, but our breath to come back to? That's where our peace is found. Of course, there are many practices we can do beyond breath, but breath is the basic one. It's the one that will serve us the most in every moment of life, because it is with us in every moment of our life. And in Buddhism, our practice is really about transforming. The only person that we can transform in this whole world is oneself. We try all the time to change the physical reality. We talk a lot about who we think we are in terms of the physical reality and evolution, and we try to manipulate the external world, when in fact, the Buddha didn't talk anything about that at all. He talked only about the one thing we can change, which is ourself. We can take that responsibility to become the lotus, to eventually be the lotus. And so actually starting in very difficult environments is good, because it points us out to the true nature of suffering. There is suffering in this world. As I mentioned, these three wonderful Buddhist masters, His Holiness Dalai Lama, Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, Jetsuma Tenzin Palmo, all born in the middle of tension, conflict, war. There's not a coincidence that such high-level bodhisattvas would come into a physical incarnation, a physical appearance in this world in the midst of such circumstances. It's because they've already have the qualities within their mind streams. They've already developed a mind, and I don't mean a brain here, I mean a mind here in our heart center. They've developed the mind that's able to take on these difficult circumstances and able to maintain genuine peace, genuine loving kindness, genuine happiness for the benefit of all mother sentient beings. Of course, walking in for the benefit of the Dharma, to uphold the Dharma, but to share this quality with all beings that live, not just human beings, but sentient beings, anything that has consciousness. In Tibetan Buddhism, we call that Semchen, a mind possessor. And Thai knew this. If you see the photos with him, with the children, they gravitate to him, with the animals gravitating to him. And then, of course, with adults gravitating to this message of loving kindness, because as we grow, sometimes we feel like we have to perform being an adult, and we feel inside very insecure. We don't feel at all adult-like. We feel very childish. We look for escapisms through the kind of foods that we're eating, and we look at the external world and take lots of photos of that. We discuss a lot of public events and gossipings that are going on over the internet these days. And these things actually genuinely have not much at all to do with the present moment reality of the room that we find ourselves sitting in, of the house that is ours alone to take care of, which is our own body, speech, and mind. This is the only place we're living. Or we can think of it also as like a seed, that we have a lotus seed inside of us. And the only thing that is going to help us take care of that happiness and bringing that lotus seed into its full growth is to become the lotus. To be the lotus, we have to become the lotus. And so we work with the muddy circumstances that we encounter in the external environment, the difficulties that have risen up in people's minds that come from ignorance, that come from selfish desire, that come from hatred and aversion. These all come from mainly this concern of confusion, of Something has hurt me, something is hurting me, something will hurt me. This kind of fear. Something has hurt my loved one, something is going to hurt my loved one, something will hurt my loved one. Something is helping my enemy, something has helped my enemy, something is helping my enemy, something will help my enemy. We start to divide our concerns into these very artificial concepts and constructs. And this isn't good. No one feels happy with that. No one benefits. That's what creates the mud, is this kind of thinking, this kind of dualistic thinking. So this is called ignorance, not knowing the true nature of the interbeing, the oneness of life. Of course, we're all breathing air that's produced on the planet through other living life forms, the plants, the green ones. We all have water inside of our bodies. We all need water to live. Most of the Earth's whole surface is covered with water. There's just one big body of water with different landforms, all part of one little planet. Our own bodies are the same kind of bodies, whether we're American or Malaysian or Indian or Taiwanese or Chinese or European or Russian. It doesn't matter. We all have water inside of our bodies, the same amount of water. And so we have these kind of human bodies that show this commonality of interbeing. And similarly, we all want happiness and joy. We don't want suffering. We all have that in common too. So this is kind of the surface that we start with coming out of the mud. When our lotus flower is in that seed still, we need causes and conditions to make the lotus bloom. So actually we need difficulty on the Buddhist path to be able to grow, to be able to see the wisdom, to come up out of this ignorance, attachment, and aversion, to leave behind the suffering. As Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh was so beautifully able to show, he refused war not by fighting in it, but by becoming peace. We refuse samsara, we refuse ignorance and attachment, selfish desire, and hatred, not by arguing with them, but by moving beyond them, by becoming the lotus. The lotus symbol in Tibetan Buddhism practice, Vajrayana practice, is a symbol of renunciation of samsara. Meaning to renounce, meaning saying, no thanks, I'm not going to join you there. I'm going somewhere else. And you're all welcome to come with me. But in order to do that, we have to do that ourselves first. In order to want to help people to go on a journey for themselves, we ourselves must walk the path and then show that the path actually has a valid destination, which is all the way up to Buddhahood, or to becoming a bodhisattva, an enlightened being, someone here on this planet, in any place, in any dimension, who's only bringing peace, happiness, loving kindness, joy, with equanimity, a cool head, and a warm heart, not being caught into the drama of the samsara. So actually we need the mud. So when we feel, oh, why is the world so difficult? It's so full of suffering. It's because there's so much confusion born from samsara, ignorance, selfish attachment, fear, hatred, pride, jealousy. These things all help create mud. But then the lotus pod notices, but that's really not my nature. And she decides, I'm going to grow up through this. I'm going to take the nourishing waters that I find myself in to break out of the shell. The lotus pod is in a shell, to use these conditions to determine with a very strong mindfulness, single-pointed mind, to grow up through out of this mud. Although I'm still connected to it, I'm not going to become and join the mud. I'm going to force my shell to open, that pod to send a little shoot up through the dark waters. I don't really know all the time where I'm going, but I know the only way out is up and through. And eventually, there's some sense of light coming through the water. And the lotus says, I'm growing there. I'm going towards that light. I don't know exactly what that is, but I will be nourished there. I will flourish by going to that light. And so that growth happens. Now, not every lotus seed and not every lotus pod opens. Some become the mud. Some decay and devolve, and they don't have the power. They don't have the causes and conditions to push, but they all have that potential. And similarly, human beings, everything that lives actually all has that potential to be the lotus. We all have a spark of that nature, of Buddha nature in us. But this lotus has decided to open herself and shoot that shoot up towards that light, and eventually coming up over the water, above the water, into the light. She's transformed into something else. She's no longer this pod or the shoot. She's both of them still, but she's now become some kind of a beautiful blossom. To be the lotus, we have to open and share that blossom, that beauty. We have to move into the light. So a lotus flower lives up above the water. It's not touched by the water moving underneath. It's not stained by the water. It's a beautiful white or pink or blue, all kinds of glorious colored lotuses, bright, bright ones you'll see, especially in Asia. And in India, they'll grow in the muddiest, most polluted places. Even some years ago when I was in Deer Park in Sarnath, where the Buddha turned the first wheel of the Dharma, there are many beautiful, bright, shocking pink lotuses growing, and the waters there in the back of the park were quite polluted. A lot of trash was in them, but didn't bother lotus at all. They all came right up above it, and they offered their beauty equally to everything and everybody. They glorified themselves in the light, became the light, became one with that, to let their blossom finally open, was touched so deeply by that light, all the beauty shone forth. And then they nourished everyone who saw them with their eye, brought joy to them. All insects landing on them shared themselves with equanimity, with everything, by just being a presence that renounced suffering, renounced difficulties, renounced tragedies, renounced ignorance, renounced hatreds, renounced ugliness that come about from this. These things that don't create beauty, that don't create a feeling of renunciation of our lower nature that sometimes drags us down into the mud, and not judging that mud, understanding it deeply with compassion, understanding how it comes about, but wanting to move ourselves up and out. As a human being, we have this opportunity because we have awareness, we have intellect, we have interest in Dharma, we have interest in peace, we have interest in becoming something more than what we started as. And everything that lives has this potential. Human beings even more so, because to gain the benefit of the Dharma, we have to be able to listen to it, to think about it, to contemplate it. Of course, all beings that live are equal, but we need this opportunity to transform. And this is the opportunity we have through following the guidance of venerable masters such as Thich Nhat Hanh. And his guidance will never end, because he already knew there's no death, really. There's a present continuous, and everything that appears is in a cycle of life. It's in a cycle of evolving and becoming. And the true essence and the true potential is all the way up to its highest expression. In Buddha Dharma, we say as a Buddha, to want to only be a benefit to all beings, to help them find their true happiness, their true compassion, their true sorrowless bliss, their joy. That's the nature of who we are, is the joy. With equanimity, meaning we never leave anyone outside of our love. And so we don't see things in duality. We don't see things as the good guy and the bad guy, the friend and the enemy, the near one and the distant one, the good and the bad, the pleasure and the pain. We don't see in duality that way, because that's a wrong seeing. And so through the miracle of mindfulness, Thai was helping us come back to our breath, to see the truth that everything that breathes, just like me, wants happiness, cherishes its life, doesn't want suffering. Another beautiful practice of being the lotus that Thai brought to the West especially was mindful walking. It's very difficult for us here in the West, in Europe, and in North America, especially in the United States, to sit, because we're so We're creatures of movement, but we move sometimes too quickly because we're running, looking here, looking there for what will bring us happiness. We move away from our families thinking that our education is going to bring us happiness. Then we have to move away from our education, going to our first job, thinking that job's going to bring us lasting happiness. Then we maybe lose that job and we move on to another kind of job or maybe more education, thinking, well, that's going to bring happiness. Then we meet someone lovely and we fall in love and we have lovely times and decide, let's get married and start a family, and maybe that's going to bring us happiness. So we're always moving. And all that time, maybe we don't have the real happiness yet inside because we're not moving with awareness. We're not moving with a mindfulness to know who we really are before we start out this movement. And this is also being the lotus. And it takes time and it takes deep insight. It takes contemplation and looking within. In Tibetan Buddhism, we say it's difficult for much good to come on the path if we only look outwards, because the eyes see everything but themselves. So if the eyes are always looking outward at the world, not being able to see that the true happiness lies within, we won't be able to get much gain from practicing the Buddha Dharma. This is why we do a lot of inward practice in meditation, in holding noble silence and doing retreat. But the main goal of doing those practices is to come out into the world, to be engaged Buddhism that Thich Nhat Hanh helped found, and that I'm part of, the member of the International Network of Engaged Buddhists, is to bring the message of the transformative Dharma out into the world, to share it openly, equally, in every direction, with every being that we meet, in every environment, to help transform hearts into their true happiness by helping them turn within. That's where our Buddha nature is. That's where our lotus seed is. And every time we turn within, we're giving it healthy sunshine. We're giving it clean water to live in. We're encouraging it, keep coming, keep coming. When we turn within, the light that we shine on that true lotus nature is helping it start to really blossom into her true expression. So being the lotus will help us become one, because we see in Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, Master Thich Nhat Hanh's life, he became a lotus, absolutely, no doubt about it. And he had to practice a hard, long path of practice. And he never stopped practicing. And breath by breath, it was his practice to make sure his lotus stayed above the water, stayed open in the sunshine, stayed available to everyone, was very peaceful, very still in many ways, wasn't trying to do anything except share the beauty of a compassionate heart and mind that had purified itself to being available to all beings without discrimination, as a presence of peace, as a presence of joy, as a presence of love. This is what true love looks like. True love is, my darling, I love you, therefore I wish for you to be happy. Not, my darling, I love you, therefore I need you to make me happy. My darling, I love you. Therefore I wish for you to be happy. This we need to say to the whole world, but before we can say it to the whole world, we have to say it to ourselves. And Thai understood this very well, that many beings these days on the planet have a hard time saying that to themselves and receiving it. So while in Engaged Buddhism, we're bringing the Buddha Dharma through meditation, through activity to the world of kind of mindful projects like solar energy and teaching meditation to youth, and the green movement of taking care of the physical environment, we first have to start with our inner environment to help become the lotus. And Thai said very rightly, we first have to say, my darling, I love you. And therefore I want you to be happy. May you be happy. We have to say that deeply to ourselves. And we have to know that our masters, our venerable elders, Thich Nhat Hanh, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Jetsuma Tenzin Palmola, they're so revered and loved because they're saying that genuinely to everyone in this world, because they genuinely feel that for themselves. And they know the beauty of the Dharma, can offer that by inviting everyone to take mindful breaths. It doesn't mean you have to become a Buddhist. Maybe you already have a different tradition, that's fine. But we can come through the breath into our true heart with what's called the four immeasurable practices. Now I'd like to offer this as a practice to be the lotus, to become the lotus, following these four immeasurable practices. And we just start with ourselves. And then we offer out to everybody else. First, we think with this immeasurable wish, how wonderful if all sentient beings, including myself, had happiness and its causes. This is called loving kindness, this immeasurable wish through altruism. Altruism means seeing the selflessness, the true nature of reality. How wonderful if I and all sentient beings had happiness and its causes. May we have happiness and its causes. I myself shall cause all sentient beings to have happiness and its causes. May the three jewels bless me to be able to do so. And if you're not a Buddhist, you can say, may Jesus bless me to be able to do so. Or if you're Jewish, you can just say, may I be blessed to be able to do so. You don't have to say it. You can just say it to your highest loving belief in this loving universe and expression that you're alive in. May I be blessed to do so, to take all this loving kindness and happiness into my own heart, and then to be able to share that and place all beings in happiness and loving kindness. The main thing is you have to want that for yourself first, believe in it as your birthright, embody it, receive it, believe that, yes, this loving kindness is entering through, we say, through the top of the head, down in touching to the heart, and it's helping that lotus start to blossom. It starts with this intentional wish and paying attention, this mindfulness, paying attention to helping our lotus blossom. This is nurturing through loving kindness. Our next immeasurable wish is nurturing through compassion. And again, you can put your hands just like this, your left hand underneath and your right on top, right at your heart center here, so that you can feel this from your heart. How wonderful if I and all sentient beings were free from suffering and its causes. May we be free from suffering and its causes. I myself receive immeasurable compassion so that I myself may place all beings in immeasurable compassion, free from suffering. Bless me, three jewels, that I may be able to do so. And again, we can feel that the infinite compassion, immeasurable compassion, streaming down through the crown of our head, touching our heart center. mixing where we've brought in immeasurable loving kindness. Now we're being filled with immeasurable loving kindness and immeasurable compassion. And we're breathing mindfully, filling. As we breathe in, we can fill our mind with immeasurable love. As we breathe out, we can send immeasurable love out to everything that is. On our next breath in, we can breathe in immeasurable compassion. And as we breathe out, we can breathe out immeasurable compassion to everything that is. This is immeasurable compassion. Our next immeasurable quality is joy, sorrowless bliss. How wonderful if I and all sentient beings were full of joy and sorrowless bliss. May we be full of joy and sorrowless bliss. I myself will bring joy and sorrowless bliss to all mother sentient beings. And in the Buddhist tradition, we say never separated from their roots of sorrowless bliss, which are Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Please bless me 3 jewels that I may be able to do this. May we all be full of joy and sorrowless bliss. Again, breathing in, we fill our mind, our awareness with this sense of ease and peace, of just being alive in this moment. There's a very basic contentment, full of joy, that has nothing to do with needing any kind of craving to be satisfied, but that is called touching lightly, as Thai would say, touching the earth lightly. When we breathe in, we are touching the earth lightly, and the earth is touching us lightly back. This awakened awareness and presence being embodied as part of this life experience, and using our heart and awareness to deeply merge with the joy and beauty of it. And we feel our lotus now above the waters, really starting to feel light and bright and spreading her petals, stretching out to meet that light, trusting in her beauty and her essence, her beingness, her interbeingness. Although she's a tender flower with very soft petals, big winds may come, the waters may churn, but she stays strong in her essence, unafraid, freely offering immeasurable loving kindness, immeasurable compassion, and immeasurable joy to all who behold her. It's immeasurable joy. And the fourth immeasurable now is immeasurable equanimity. Equanimity means serenity, cool-headedness, evenness. It's not equality. It's got a sense of that, but it's different. It's a sense of not having any kind of discrimination, seeing a oneness, and having a serenity in that connection. And keeping a very clear view with a serene awareness of the true nature of oneself, what we say the empty nature, and of all that appears that shares exactly that same empty nature. That's alive, aware, awake, beautiful light. How wonderful if I and all sentient beings were to abide, were to live in equanimity, without any bias of attachment and hatred. May we all live and abide in equanimity, free from any bias of attachment or hatred. I myself will live in equanimity and serenity, free of bias and any hatred or attachment, and place all other beings in that same freedom. Please, 3 jewels, or just please, may I be blessed to be able to do so, and then feeling the blessings as a Buddhist practitioner of the 3 jewels coming through the crown of your head. Or if you're Christian, you can feel the blessings of God, or Jewish or Muslim, of Allah, of Yahweh, of, if you're worshiping the Mother Earth, of Gaia, if you're a humanitarian, just the blessings of the goodness of being a good human being, wherever you feel blessings might come from. They are coming through the crown of your head and touching your heart, filling you with the serenity of equanimity, free of bias, free of hatred, free of attachment, that holds everything, oneself included, in all that one encounters and sees, in this serenity, expansive freedom. And as we breathe in, we're filling ourselves with this serenity, this equanimity, this calm abiding. And as we breathe out, we're sending out the serenity, equanimity, calm abiding, peaceful coexistence, we could also call it. This is the 4th immeasurable, the immeasurable equanimity of serenity, of peaceful abiding. So these 4 immeasurable qualities, just as all living life is immeasurable, these qualities are immeasurable and go on without end. This practice is very wonderful and beautiful for us to do every day. Highly recommend and encourage you to. I want to thank Tara Brach, a lovely Buddhist teacher here in the United States, for this suggestion of putting the hands over the heart, because what I came to know for the last 6 years, I've mostly been living in India, so I'm coming to know my own culture and country situation a little better now, being back in the United States for the last many months. But I saw her in one of her guided meditations suggest this kind of mudra, we could call it. A mudra is a physical form. And it's important, it's so vital that each of us starts with our very own loving heart mind, knowing and believing deeply in our true Buddha essence, our true Buddha nature, which is alive, which is a spark maybe in some of us waiting to become alive, waiting to be caught by another spark, which is why we do engage Buddhism. We try to become a little bit of a flame or a spark that lets someone else know, like, hey, you too, you have it inside. Here, take a little bit of my flame. As the Buddha said, a candle can light thousands of other candles without losing anything to itself. So this is what we're here to do, is to help illuminate this world, which of course in such times of darkness, through epidemics, through the threats of war, through competition, jealousy, fears of climate change, lots of attention gets put in our consciousness around anxiety and fear and struggle, then how much more so do we need to put these kinds of four immeasurable qualities before anything else can come in, so we can handle everything else, so we can handle it perfectly, the way Master Thich Nhat Hanh demonstrated through his whole life's work and walk, that it can be handled perfectly. But we need a path, we need a teacher, and we need valid teachings that help us learn to become the lotus, so that then we be the lotus for others who are then learning how to become the lotus. And then sooner rather than later, we look around and we see, wow, I'm in a whole ocean of lotuses. I thought I was only lotus in one little pond, and then maybe a few other lotuses in my little pond. But then we look up one day and we see everywhere is covered on this beautiful earth with lotuses. And it will happen. But it takes time, and there will be some times, because of the struggle of becoming the lotus, we have to just keep walking, breathing mindfully, practicing softly this becoming of the lotus. And one day we recognize we are her, or him, or them, or however we want to define oneself. We have become the lotus, which is beautiful in whatever way we're going to call it. So I also want to thank another teacher, my Sawe Lama, my root Lama, His Eminence Kenzor Rinpoche Lobsang Se Tenle. I didn't mention him at the beginning because not as many people maybe would know his name, but he too has walked a long walk through many difficulties and strifes, and was in Tibet in 1950s when the Chinese came in. He was there studying, although he's from northern India, Ladakh. And he too saw the difficulties and the sadness of conflict and wars and struggles. But he too has walked a beautiful, long life of peace in the Dharma as a beautiful lotus, sharing his joy, sharing his beauty, sharing his laughter and happiness. So our masters are a bit sometimes like our sunshine in the Dharma, and they're there to help us become the lotus. And eventually when we become the lotus, we become again like a sunshine for others. And in this way, it's a dependent arising, this interbeing, the way the moon reflects the sun's light. The moon needs the sun's light. It's empty of its own light. We ourselves have a spark of light. We have a potential to find it and grow it, but we need all these causes and conditions. And it's not as good to just try to read a book or, occasionally take something from here, something from there. Really, the Buddha showed a path, and the path leads to your highest happiness, to bliss, to joy, to happiness, and to wisdom that comes through analysis, through sharing, through study, through asking questions, through meditation, contemplation, but through reasoning. It's not through a blind faith. So if you've enjoyed this meditation, I encourage you, please read some books by Thich Nhat Hanh, The Miracle of Mindfulness, Becoming the Lotus, No Mud, No Lotus. peace in every step. So many he's written. True love. Taming the tiger within. Let's close with just one quote and dedicate our merits. Then close with one quote. The Buddha taught that there is no birth, there is no death. There is no coming, there is no going. There is no same, there is no difference. There is no permanent self. There is no annihilation. And so, although Thay's form has left us physically, his teachings, his wisdom of the Buddha Dharma, these will remain as a beacon of his presence. And again, from Thay's book called Taming the Tiger Within, Meditations on Transforming Difficult Emotions. To meditate means to be invited on a journey of looking deeply in order to touch our true nature and to recognize that nothing is lost. Sadhu, 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 to Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, to all of the Theravadan brothers and sisters, to all the Mahayana brothers and sisters, and to all the Vajrayana, Tibetan, Himalayan practitioners, I give my heartfelt gratitude to be with you as your sister on this beautiful path. To all my other brothers and sisters throughout the world who are on a different path and whatever journey, I'm also very happy to be alive at this precious time with you, to be sharing this amazing opportunity for transformation and becoming the Lotus together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Venerable Tenzin Dasel, for wonderful and beautiful guided meditation. Our lotuses in our heart are blossoming now after listening to you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Brother Sharon.
Yeah. I think, Samishan, you have a question to ask, Venerable?
Yeah, I don't personally, but we see some questions in comments. So I'd like to read the first question from our comment box. While engaging ourselves in helping others and being a lotus, how to prevent ourselves from getting compassionate fatigue? Compassion fatigue is a term that describes the physical, emotional, and psychological impact of helping others, often through experiences of stress or trauma. Compassion fatigue is often mistaken for burnout, which is a cumulative sense of fatigue or dissatisfaction.
Yep, this is a very common question. So it's a great question, and thank you for that question, whoever asked it. So in Buddhist practice, I'm going to answer it within the context of Buddhism. Compassion, as I said, these four immeasurable qualities, we have to start with ourselves. So we have to know our own boundaries. We have to know our own capacity. So whether we're teachers or nurses or doctors or social workers or Buddhist practitioners, program directors, firefighters, every human being these days who's trying to live with compassion might feel compassion fatigue. But this means that we're looking too much in the outward world. We're looking too much at social media. We're listening too much to the news, or thinking that really we're going to change somebody out there through all of our efforts of what we're doing in this world. We're trying to change the world. This is why we get fatigued. We never can do it. It's exhausting. Even the Buddha couldn't change the world. Look at this world 2,600 years, even after someone like the Shakyamuni Buddha came, someone after the Jesus Christ came, someone after the Prophet Muhammad came, someone after Gandhi Ji came, someone after His Holiness the Dalai Lama, someone after Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, someone after Jetsima Tenzin Palmo, someone after Mother Teresa. We can name all these wonderful saints from all different traditions and guides. The world is still going to be struggling because the world you could think of as like a big classroom. And there are many different lessons to be learned here. And everyone has his or her own, their own lessons to learn. But our lesson individually is to know what can we do realistically. So in order to stop the suffering out there, we have to first remove it from ourselves. We remove it by seeing truly the deep nature of reality. And we learn deeply about who is it that suffers, who needs the compassion, how to give the compassion. And that's why we begin by looking, what is my own true nature? If I look deeply, I don't find a solid sense of I or me. that suffering. I feel a concern. I have been harmed. I am being harmed. I may be harmed. When we start to feel that concern, we solidify the sense of ourselves into this solid sense of me. And when we do that, as soon as we do a me, then we put a you out there. And as soon as we think we're going to start to try to change the whole situation by changing politics, by changing everyone's minds to think like us, we're going to drain our energy out because we can't do that. What we can do is we can have our daily practice, whether it's 5 minutes or 15 or 50 minutes, whatever we can manage, is to make sure we start our day realistically with those 4 immeasurable qualities and just living in the moment. So whatever's arising, we're aware in our mind of what's arising. And if it's a beneficial thought, keep it. How wonderful I'm doing today. I'm determined to do the best I can. If it's a difficult thought of fatigue, then you do the best you can, which is meaning I need to take a break. I need to do a little bit more quiet meditation when I have a chance this weekend to come back home to touching mindfully. What is the only thing I can really change is myself. But we don't have to wait for the weekend to do a short, like 1 or 2 hour retreat or a 1-day retreat. We can do that any moment during the day, which is just pausing. You can have your own little bell. I guess probably more you would all set your bells on this. You know, you can have a little app that you have your little bell that comes on and lets you remember, now I'm just going to breathe again. And that compassion's always there. Life is difficult. Everybody wants the happiness. Nobody wants the suffering. Now I'm doing my best. I will not join the suffering. And then you set a little bell timer for yourself. And you just take that moment or two during your day to come back and to let those difficult moments be acknowledged and then understand deeply this is how everyone that lives feels, that there will be some stress, some challenge, to meet it softly with compassion, use the breath, and then to breathe out. May we all be free from suffering. May we all have compassion. And cultivating that mind over and over again, training it. We call it training, mind training. And we do this as a practice of mind training. You have to train that way. And so that will start to help the mind feel more invigorated, more full of energy, more confident and encouraged that just for my own life, I cannot really change the world, but I will change myself. I will get rid of the ignorance. I will get rid of the fear, the selfish desire, the hatreds. And once we do that, we start to feel very full of compassion, very full of space, actually. Spaciousness. And fatigue comes when we get feeling cramped, when we feel tight, when our concern gets caught with fear. So we have to just practice and just keep putting that compassion back. And when you can, take a break. Take time, unplug from the media. Go for a walk in the nature. Keep cultivating the wish. Although the world is struggling right now, everyone shares the same wish for happiness and compassion and joy, just like me. And then really rejoice in that. That is our true nature. But don't feel like it will ever stop, that we're trying to reach a state of we're going to solve all the problems. Because look at realistically at history. No one's been able to stop all the problems yet. And maybe that isn't even the point. Maybe the point is to accept that mud and to grow up through those problems, understanding them more deeply, really looking at them, analyzing them more carefully to see what is realistic. How many can we really change? Only one. But if we change that one well, it will start to transform the greater environment.
Thank you. Thank you, Venerable. There's another question. Can you explain to us how to practice engaged Buddhism practically and effectively in our daily lives?
Yes, I mean, the simple answer is just be more concerned about others than about yourself. And this will also help you with compassion fatigue. If you genuinely hold this wish, it doesn't mean you go around trying to please everybody. It doesn't mean like you're going to try to prove yourself. I'm such a good girl. I'm such a good guy. I'm such a good boy, whatever, such a good being. It means genuinely from your heart, genuinely. When you are going into a coffee shop, let's say, and you're just ordering something that you just, before you order, you look at the person and say, how are you today? How's your day going? And then they're maybe a little startled, like, oh, I'm just asking for your order. And usually people are just spitting at me what they want, but you're genuinely asking. There's a human being there in front of you. How are you doing today? And you share a smile because it feels good to connect with someone that way. Someone's really busy in traffic and they're going to cut you off. Don't let them cut you off. Just stop and let them go. By all means, after you. Be spacious. Be generous that way. Generosity doesn't have to be a big display. Generosity means don't be so attached to needing things kind of your way. It feels good. Let others, we're only one and there are almost 8 billion others. So let the other 7,999,999,000, let them have it their way. If the cat, you don't like the cat, but the cat wants to come in and visit with you, let the cat come in and visit you and give the cat some love. You usually don't like dogs, you're afraid of them. Think maybe that's their way of saying hi when they're barking at you. Don't jump away from them. Oh, hello, yes, I see you over there. Just be friendly. Be a little bit more kind with your generous, friendly heart. And so engaged Buddhism starts like this. It means we recognize that others are just like us and they want happiness and don't want suffering. And there are so many myriad of little ways we can do that. You could, surprise your colleagues and spring for everyone to have their coffee or tea break, or organize a pizza lunch with everyone together. Do things more collectively. Think more about the whole. Bring flowers in for someone who you don't really know that well, but who maybe looks like they're really going through a hard time. I mean, just be a little bit more generous with your spirit and how you're thinking about things. Listen to people more. Don't speak over them. Ask them genuinely, what do you think about how your life is going? Do you feel really happy right now? I feel sometimes I'm suffering. Do you suffer too? Have a genuine conversation. This is engaged Buddhism. And then we can just sit down a little bit together and take a pause and not try to rush into the world, to try to change the world, to try to shape the world the way we think the world needs to be. Everyone has to have an electric car, solar power. No, I mean, yes, we need clean water and food. We do need clean air to breathe. These things are necessary, but why have all those things on the outside in the outer world if everyone's miserable inside? Then who cares? Really, I'm just sharing my thoughts about it. My engaged Buddhism means I want to transform my own heart and mind first, to be genuinely warm, loving, and kind. I want to be able to listen to what others need and not just try to feed them what I think they need. I want to have that presence of spirit that can embrace the whole world in the way they would like to be embraced, even if I don't understand what that means. Whether people are transgendered, transsexual, gay, lesbian, bisexual, if they're happy with that, I want them to know genuinely I love them as they are. They can let me know who they are, and I will respect them for who they are. This is engaged Buddhism. Yes, of course, healthy food and clean air, and I want to do my part on that physical level, and that to a lot of you young people is very important. That is true. Those are very good projects to be involved with, but inwardly first, is your own peace of mind there? Are you staying clean, clear, following, getting enough sleep, not taking too much media, being mindful about what you consume through your eyes, through your ears, meaning what kind of things are you drawn to, through your mouth, what kind of foods, trying to stay, free of alcohol and drugs, because those confuse the mind. So engaged Buddhism means sharing these ideas with others, still up to them to make their own choice. And we respect that. Every individual free to choose, only to each one can walk the path. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas cannot do that for us. But engaged Buddhism means we think about what makes sense and how we choose to live this one precious life that we have to live. Riding a bike instead of taking a car, this can be engaged Buddhism. It can be helping the whole, making you happy. Keeping your body, speech, and mind in virtue. This is The bottom line, the Buddha said, was to really walk the path is to perform no non-virtuous actions, subdue your own mind thoroughly, meaning not killing, not stealing, not engaging in sexual misconduct, meaning if someone's in a relationship already, don't get involved in that relationship. They're not available. Don't get involved with pornography and things that exploit people and objectify them. But other than that, if you're happy in a kind of a dynamic relationship of a partner, then that's up to you to choose what that looks like, as long as it's consensual, mutual, and respectful. Don't steal from others. Don't create divisive speech over, especially definitely not over religion. Externally, don't judge others' religions, and internally, as the Sangha, don't fight amongst yourselves. Have harmony. Don't use harsh speech. Don't use swears and vulgar speech. No one likes to hear that. It doesn't make you cool. It just shows you that you're ignorant, not learning how to develop your vocabulary more. There are many languages and many words within one's own mother language that are fantastic words to speak. So why do we need vulgar swear words? They're not making you more of a man or a woman, more of a boss. That's not true. If you believe in it, you should investigate why. And also maintaining a noble silence, so listening more deeply engages Buddhism, because we can hear the deeper messages life has to share with us when we listen more deeply. That's engaged Buddhism. Also, of course, not having pride, not being conceited and arrogant, being a bully, but being humble, being respectful. This is a way to have engaged Buddhism. Also, not having harmful thoughts, not having negative thoughts, not being deceitful, having a split mind, saying one thing but really thinking something else, and then gossiping and spreading your wrong, harmful thoughts behind someone's back. That's not good. Engaged Buddhism means being honest, being forthright, having the confidence and clarity and dignity, a quiet dignity to share your truth without necessitating others believe in it, but at least respecting them enough to share it directly. And then, of course, not having a wrong view, not thinking that this world was created by permanently and it's always going to be this way, it's never going to change, and that you'll permanently go to heaven or permanently go to hell. It's not like that at all. So engaged Buddhism means trying to find out more. What is a right view? What does Buddha mean when he says follow the right view? And then once we understand these things deeply and we can live them, embody them personally, we can go everywhere and do all kinds of wonderful things with many dear strangers we've never met who are going to become our friends. We're going to learn how wonderful to work together all around the world and take care of our dear, precious life that we've been given, so that we can leave a legacy. We can leave guidance, like our Venerable Master Thai, he's eternal. He's immeasurable now, his qualities. They're immeasurable. His writings, his model, his communities, his disciples, his practitioners' wisdom will go on and on to help others indefinitely transform their minds all the way up to their Buddhahood. This is what a great bodhisattva like the Venerable Master Thich Nhat Hanh can show us what he means about engaged Buddhism. First, walk your walk. Don't talk any talk. First, learn some Buddha Dharma. Learn what is your guiding principles in this life. Listen deeply and be in harmony with those values. And then when you're ready, you can start to move slowly, and someone might notice, hey, we'd like to know a little bit. What do you know? Then you can share a little Dharma with them. But mostly you can live in noble silence to understand what is the right way to live the engaged Buddhism. And when it comes to you, you'll know it.
Okay, I
Thank
think
you, Venerable Tenzin Dasel.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Any
just
question,
felt
El?
like I was reading a very beautiful book.
Wow.
That was really very heart touching. Like the genuineness which you were talking about. I really feel when someone asks me genuinely, "How are you? Yeah, I'm suffering. Do you have any problem in your life?" and all that you said. When really someone approach, at least me, with that sort of feeling, it's really very pleasing. So I just felt like I could relate to whatever you are talking, and I hope many of our people in audience could also. It was
Well,
really hard.
this is so beautiful. This is what the Buddha taught. This isn't my teaching. This is the Buddha's taught is, first we have to start with ourselves because that's what he did. He was just born as a
Mhm.
human being like us. He wasn't like a special god. He was born in India, Nepal, India, northeastern, just as a human being. And he had many challenges and problems. And even when he wanted to go forth from the householder's life, his own father, the king, didn't even appreciate that. He was like, oh, no, no, you're going to become the king. So he had suffering. He knew suffering. And he loved his wife and he loved his son, but he felt called out. And so he had to start with himself of those 6 long years of ascetic practices of looking deeply, listening to different masters at the time. He studied with different gurujis who were part of the Brahmin caste system of the ones that had gone forth. And he learned and he asked questions and then he accepted some things and then he left things that didn't make sense to him. And then eventually he found through his own efforts, through his own suffering, physically, he really was, you can see some of the statues where he's so thin down to the bone where he almost passed away. And he thought, if I lose this body, I won't get to my enlightenment. So this is why we come to the middle path. But it is, darling, it is so true. We have to start with ourselves. We really do. And we have to, as Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh put it this way, he said, ask yourself, darling, I know you suffer. Where are you suffering? How are you suffering? Turn that question first to yourself. Call yourself darling. Be precious to yourself. And then when we're that genuine with ourselves, we can turn it out and we can bring this genuine question to our friends. They don't even have to look like they're suffering. We can just ask, I know sometimes I'm suffering and I don't acknowledge it. Is there any way I can listen to you? Are you suffering? Or we can be really brave when we're suffering, when we can say to a friend, darling, I'm suffering and I need your help. And we can show that kind of deep interconnection and that courage to be vulnerable, to be soft, to be seen. We don't have to pretend that we have all the answers. And how beautiful. That's so liberating already. And everyone, then you're respecting your friend that they can be a presence in your life who's giving you that uplifting, and their lotus is being nourished and flourished because you gave them that chance. Thank you, Samiksha.
Sorry. Thanks to you, actually. Like, we are very pleased to have you today. Not only today, but on in all of our sessions. Thank you so much for giving us your precious time.
Oh, no, it's really my pleasure. And I feel grateful to Sattva and especially to the young people who are so engaged right now, very seriously with their Dharma practice. It's so vital right now. I was just reading on the INEB, on the International Network of Engaged Buddhists site, that they were just given a grant to do engaged Buddhism all around Asia through interfaith work, and this is, they asked me to be involved more in the Bhikkhuni kind of committee, and I helped guide as one of the first female guides of their retreat after a session in Taiwan back in 2017, thankfully to Jetsuma Tenzin Palmo, who asked me to go there. But my feeling is this is the wave of the future, that we could do a lot of beautiful connection through interfaith dialogue like this, through the youth, through opening it up. What does the youth see for the future of the planet? What is the youth wishing for? And to just be a support in that, because in my youth, I did do a lot of practice, both in my inner self, but as well as out in the world. And, I believe in this power of engaged Buddhism, that we engage within ourselves and then we bring it out. Now, globally, we are living in a time where we have this wonderful opportunity. We've never even met in person, and how lovely we feel already as a Sattva community. So this is what we can do going forward, to share the beauty of our practice, share the beauty of the Buddha Dharma with the world.
Thank you, Venerable Tenzin. Yeah. So on behalf of the Saba Project, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to you for your presence, Venerable Tenzin, and for your guidance. Thank you.
Oh, always happy to be here with you.
Okay, so let us have a small announcement of our upcoming events. I guess my voice is echoing, but I do have my headphones, so sorry for that. So, Brother Thong, can we have the next slide, please? Okay, so we are going to have the second, although it is named part one, so we are going to have this in a conversation format. This was a meditation. So with the same series, Interbeing Series, the topic entitled is The Miracle of Mindfulness Remembering Thich Nhat Hanh. So we'll be having a discussion over this topic with the speakers, as you can see on the screen, which will be conducted on 27th February, Sunday. So please do join us on this event as well. So let us conclude whatever merit we have gained today. So I'd like to invite Brother Sharap for the four great vows in English. Then I would, oh sorry, first I would like to invite Venerable Tenzin Dasel for a dedication prayer, and then Brother Sharap for the four great vows. Venerable Tenzin Dasel.
Bodhi mind, precious and sublime, may it arise where it has not arisen, and where it has arisen, may it flourish and grow forevermore.
The four great vows. Sentient beings are numberless, we vow to save them all. Delusions are endless, we vow to cut through them all. The teachings are infinite, we vow to learn them all. The Buddha way is inconceivable, we vow to attain it. May all beings be well, happy, and safe.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Venerable. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
friends. Lovely to be with you. Have a lovely evening there, and wherever you are, if you have a lovely day. And may all beings be happy and be free.
Thank you.